Welcome to A Day in Her Life. I'm your host, Elin, and I am fascinated by how other women make their days work. This week, Hattie Sparks Collins, owner of Hattie Sparks, a full-service interior decorating firm, and mom of a small girl gang, is joining us to discuss her days. Hattie lives in New Orleans with her new wife. They got married just days before our recording, and their 3 daughters. I loved hearing from Hattie about how she starts her day early with a workout so that she's prioritized herself every morning. We talk about the work boundaries Hattie has set after many years of working for herself, how she tries to make time for both friends and family during her days, and our shared love of Elin Hildebrand. Hattie also shares how she started Hattie Sparks right around the start of COVID, how she's discovered the connection between her physical and mental health, and how she's currently in a phase of great balance. I love this conversation with Hattie, and I'm sure you all will too. You can follow Hattie at Hattie Sparks on Instagram or visit her website, HattieSparks.com. And as always, thank you for making A Day in Her Life a part of a day in your life. This is the last new guest episode of the year, and I cannot believe it. I feel so lucky to be able to discuss women's days and share them with you. I would love to hear from you on what you would like to hear more of in the new year and what other women inspire you. If you have any feedback, please send me a message on our website, adayinherlife.com, or on Instagram at A Day in Her Life Pod. While you're there, you can subscribe to our weekly newsletter where I share thoughts on various topics, more A Day in Her Life insight, and often my 5 favorite things. Thank you for being a part of this community we're building, and I'm so excited for what's to come. Since we don't have any sponsors on A Day in Her Life, I love to feature an organization doing good. Grounded in social justice, St. Mary's Center for Women and Children in Dorchester, Massachusetts, empowers families to achieve emotional stability and economic independence through education, workforce development, and permanent housing. If you're looking for a way to give back this holiday season, St. Mary's has a way for you to fulfill some holiday wishes for their families on their website, stmaryscenterma.org. You don't have to be local to participate and support this organization helping women and families. And with that, I hope you all have a fabulous holiday season. Whether you've just wrapped up Hanukkah or you're gearing up for Christmas, Kwanzaa, winter solstice, or Festivus, I hope that you're spending the holidays and the new year surrounded by those who love and support you. If you're feeling burnt out and exhausted by this season, or this season is tough for you, you're not alone and you're doing a great job. And with that, let's have some fun. Welcome to A Day in Her Life podcast. Today, Hattie Sparks Collins is joining me to discuss a day in her life. Hi, Hattie. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So if you don't mind, let's jump right in. Can you set the scene for us and fill us in on where you live, what you do, and what your family looks like?
Sure. I live in New Orleans. I live uptown, kind of near Audubon Park, for those familiar. I live with my wife as of 4 days ago. We just got married.
Yay.
And our 3 kids. I have twin girls who will be 5 in about 3 weeks, and she has a daughter who turned 5 about a month and a half ago. So lots of girl energy in our house, lots of sparkles and hair clips and headbands and Barbie dolls. We're just inundated with tiny stuff right now. And I'm an interior decorator. We do full service residential design. We've branched out a little bit into commercial spaces. We did a retail store and a restaurant in New Orleans, but primarily residential. Most of our projects now are in the Southeast, New Orleans, the Gulf Coast, but we do take on projects nationwide. We've done projects in DC, in Brooklyn, Washington State, Colorado, Texas, and I run an office of 5 employees. We have 3 full-time employees and 2 part-time employees. And yeah, we've been in business about a little over 4 years full-time.
That's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit of how you got into interior decorating or kind of what your path was to get there?
Yeah, so I went to undergrad in Texas at TCU, and I majored in art history. And during that time, I took a couple classes that focused on architectural history and decorative arts and really loved them. I eventually went to grad school at Tulane, and while I didn't focus on decorative arts or architectural history, a lot of what you study in art history involves a ton of context. And so you do end up studying a lot of architectural history of decorative arts, and obviously involves a lot of color theory, a lot of, just noticing aesthetics and balance within certain pieces. And that really kind of sparked my interest in interior design and architectural design. And I would consume a lot of media associated with those disciplines. I think it was a fun outlet for me when I was studying art history to kind of take a break and look at something else. I was in retail for about 6 or 7 years here. I had 2 boutiques, and we eventually kind of morphed into a store that sold a little bit of everything. We focused a lot towards the end on home goods, decorative pieces, art, decorative accessories, and friends started asking me to help them source pieces for their homes through my shops, and then come help them style those pieces in their homes. They would ask me to come help them style bookshelves, build out, one room. And I really loved it, but I didn't really understand at that time how I could make the transition from retail into doing that. And then after I closed my stores and had my kids, I started a consulting business for retailers that were moving into the New Orleans market. I would help them essentially build out their business here, get their permitting, hire, train their staff, build out their IT, even do the buying sometimes, and stock their inventory. And in a couple instances, they had me design the space. And I just really loved that and felt like I thrived in that. And I wanted to see at that point if I could kind of go down that avenue in my career. And the kids were really young. And when I made that shift, I was a single mom, and the kids were probably 6 months old. And so it was very scary to kind of leave a world that I was really comfortable in and really familiar with. And I didn't just completely take like a 90-degree turn into interior decorating. I was doing a couple other things while I was getting my feet wet in the industry. So I was still consulting. I was working for the RealReal. I was their Gulf Coast territory manager. So I was just up and down the Gulf Coast seeing clients. And then I took on a handful of design clients. So a huge range of projects from, an office makeover to a full home, a historic home renovation. So by the end of 2019, I had 5 clients on the books. I had stopped consulting, and then I had transitioned out of the RealReal because it was too much. And I realized, by the end of 2019, this was something that was enough to support me and my kids, and I could do full time. And I was learning as I went. I mean, I took on any project. I was saying yes to absolutely everything with very little knowledge of the industry. And so I was staying up after the girls would go to bed. I was watching YouTube videos. I was I was reading just article after article after article. I was listening to podcasts. I was, reading articles and interviews with designers that I admired just to get an idea of how to build this business and structure it in a way that would be beneficial and efficient. And things were going well with these handful of clients. And then COVID happened, and I kind of had a very brief but very strong panic about what I was going to do because, not only was I new to the industry, but then it was completely turned upside down. And I also knew I couldn't go back to retail at that point. And so there was some uncertainty, and I just thought, well, let me finish out with these 5 clients. And then if it dries up, I will figure something out. Mm-hmm. And it didn't. After about a month, I think people realized this isn't something that's going away anytime soon. People were in their homes more than they had ever been. And I think people started to realize, I want to make this space that now, I'm in 24 hours a day, comfortable. I want to tackle these projects I've been putting off. And now that I have, the time and, the money, because we're not spending money on traveling, going out to eat, entertainment, we want to tackle that now. So April of 2020 is really when our business, it was just me at the time, just exploded. And it felt a little bit like being strapped to a rocket ship and trying to figure out how to fly it at the same time. And I do think, I benefited a lot from, you know, COVID turning the industry upside down when I was at the very beginning of my career, because I wasn't so entrenched in certain processes. I wasn't so entrenched in a certain way of doing things that I couldn't pivot easily. So it wasn't super hard for me to adapt. And I got used to pretty quickly, I got used to the challenges that COVID brought to the industry rather than feeling very taken aback by them. And so now on the other side, now that things have settled down, it almost feels like, I don't want to say smooth sailing all the time because there's certainly challenges, but compared to those early days and compared to these crazy supply chain issues now, issues that come up feel very manageable and very much like a minor bump in the road rather than this, insurmountable challenge. So I know it was an incredibly difficult time for so many people. It changed the way so many people operate and live. And I do, in some ways, I look at it as a silver lining for me in my career because it helped me be flexible and help me stay just kind of, it helped me just understand, it helped me set client expectations. Even now we're really good about setting client expectations. So here we are now. I feel like there's a lot that happened between then and now too. So, but that's kind of the shortest version of how I got here today.
That's so cool. Thank you for sharing that. And I love the various points that you had to be flexible throughout that. Thank you. So let's jump into your days. So starting with your morning, starting from wake up to kind of getting the kids out the door to school, what do your mornings look like?
Okay. So I have found that I operate so much better when I am on a really just consistent schedule. And I operate so much better if I have time for myself in the morning before everything starts in the day. So I wake up really early. I usually wake up between 5:15 and 5:30, and I work out at home. We have a Peloton bike and a Peloton treadmill, which we've had for, I don't know, however long, but I am obsessed and I will talk about it with anybody who will listen. It's probably super annoying, but I go upstairs and I work out for, 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how I'm feeling. But that really helps me kind of set the tone for the day. It helps me, feel like I've taken time for myself. I've put myself first every day, first thing in the morning. And it also helps that I don't have like that cloud hanging over my head all day. Like, oh, I really, could use a workout. I really could blow off some steam. It just like, it's nice to get it done first thing in the morning. So I knock that out.
Who's your favorite instructor?
Okay. Well, it depends on if it's the bike or the tread. On the tread recently, I've been loving Kirsten Ferguson. She does these hour-long intention setting walks on Sundays, which I love. I also love Jess Sims. Like, she's probably my top number one on every, strength.
I've been doing some of her
running.
strength stuff recently, and I really enjoyed it.
She's great. And then I love her runs. And then Callie. Callie's my favorite for strength and like HIIT cardio classes. I love her. She's got a really fun energy. And then on the bike, Robin and Tunde, I mean, they will get you just like so jacked up. You're just like pounding your chest. You're like, let's go. So those are kind of like my go-tos. And every once in a while, like I'll mix it up and, take a class with someone else. Like I've been doing a couple rides with Jen Sherman and like love her and love her playlists. So, it's a fun way to start the day. And, I like follow them all on Instagram and I'm like so invested in like them. So yeah, after I work out, I usually come down and make breakfast for the kids. So, something easy. They're not like super picky, but they have definitely like, they like to eat the same thing every morning. So I make breakfast for them. And I usually get the twins up around 10 till 7. They go to a private school, a Catholic school, and they wear uniforms. So like the mornings aren't really ever that much of a struggle with them. I think the uniforms help. It's just like, all right, get dressed. Here's what you're wearing. Get downstairs. With twins, I had to be so scheduled and kind of regimented. So I think they're kind of used to that as well, just like following a pretty, quick pace in the morning. And they're up and at 'em. I mean, they're up, getting dressed. They're downstairs, by 10 after 7, eating breakfast. And then we're usually out the door, the latest 7:30. Drop off at their school starts pretty early, and we live about a mile from their school. So It's really not bad, but we kind of joke that we live in like the eye of the school hurricane where we are. There are like 7 schools within a mile radius of where we live. And it's just like the convergence of people every morning.
Traffic.
It's like if you leave 3 minutes later than you are supposed to, you get stuck in the craziest traffic. So it's like, if we're not like out the door by like 7:28, I'm like, oh, we're going to be like creeping along. So I drop them off, come home, shower, get ready for the day. And then I usually go into the office around 9:30. So we have an office. It's about half a mile from the house. And so after I come back and get ready, I'll eat, probably have another coffee and then head into the office. And then days at the office, every day looks a little bit different. We have a pretty set meeting schedule throughout the week. So Mondays we do an all hands team meeting. That's usually Monday afternoon. And Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have creative check-in with my design team where we just go over design concepts that we're working on, and we discuss kind of the creative process behind, those decisions. We pull samples, we, make changes and tweaks where we need to. Wednesdays, I have check-ins with my purchasing and receiving manager because we have our own warehouse where we do all of our receiving and all of our storage. So we don't work with a third-party receiver or storage company. We do it all ourselves. And then I have a check-in with our CFO on Wednesdays. So Monday through Thursday, either in a meeting at the office, running around, meeting with clients. I try and do a site check-in on all of our renovations on Mondays. So I just drive around to all of them and pop in and just make sure I get eyes on it.
Hi.
I'm here. Okay, no changes. I'm going to leave. And then, kind of in and out of the office. There's a lot of running around in this industry, picking things up, dropping things off, meeting clients, meeting contractors. So, some days I'm in the office more than others, but it's nice having it close so that I can run home if I need to. I can run to school if I need to. But typically 9 to 4, 9:30 to 4 is my work day. A lot of times after I work out, if it's, quicker workout or, I have some time before I wake the girls up, I'll sit down and I'll check my email and I'll fire off some emails, before 7. So, and then I usually cut my workday off at 4:00, because I've been up and kind of working in some capacity since around 6 in the morning. I like to cut it off at 4. That way I can run, any errands I need to run. I can run by the grocery store before I pick the kids up from school. So they do all of their except all but one of their activities through school, which I'm so thankful for that their school off.
So nice.
I mean, yeah. And because people ask me sometimes, well, how do you do it with like dropping off at like activities? And I'm like, I don't. I don't. I have them do it at school. I take them to gymnastics on Mondays off campus, and that's the only off-campus thing we do. But they offer soccer, tennis, basketball. That's what they are into right now is sports. They do that all through their school. So nice. It's so nice. And, eventually I know my life will shift in a different direction and I will be running all over creation, dropping them off and picking them up. But for now, that's what they want to do that. And it's easy for me. So it's really a win for everybody. So I usually get them around 4:45, 5:00, come home. I let them decompress. I think about me and I'm like, at the end of my workday, what do I want to do? Answer a bunch of questions and, talk to somebody for an hour? No, I want to decompress. I want to chill out. I want to honestly look at my phone and just kind of zone out for a bit. So while I make dinner, they usually watch a show, and then we eat dinner. Usually, sometimes together. Sometimes we'll eat all five of us together. Some nights it's just the kids eating. But while they're eating, then we talk about their day. And that's something that, their school counselor was really helpful with. They send out all these kind of tidbits, once or twice a week. And their school counselor said, don't bombard your kids with questions right when they get in the car. They're tired. They're, overstimulated. Like, let them have an hour or so to decompress. And so I've found that is a lot more effective with, my kids, and communicating with them and hearing about how their day was. If I give them some time to chill out, and then over dinner, they can tell us about their day and things they did and funny stories. So, and then dinner, they're done. They're in the shower by 6:15 ish, 6:30 ish. And then they're asleep by 7. And I know, a lot of parents are like, how do they go to bed so early? Friends of mine are just like, how do your kids go to bed so early? Cause a lot of my friends, their kids aren't going to bed till, 8, sometimes 9 o'clock. And I don't know what it is about my kids. They've always been great sleepers, knock on wood that continues, but they've always been great sleepers. And I think it's the twin thing that I had them on such a tight schedule when they were babies, that's just carried over now. And, when they're in bed, they may not go to sleep right away, but they're laying in bed, they're being quiet. And then I have, time after they go to bed to cook us dinner, to, do things around the house that I need to do, or just to relax and also start decompressing from my day. Yeah.
When it comes to dinner as a family, or are you the primary cook, and what do you usually make for dinner? Like, how do you find recipes, or what inspires you for cooking for the kids?
So we split it kind of most of the time 50-50 on who makes dinner. And, I don't want to I wouldn't say we cook recipes for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of just like a collection of things that we know they like. And then sometimes things that they've tried before, but that we want to reintroduce, or new things. So for example, last night, the kids love boiled shrimp. So we had boiled shrimp, and we had, crinkle cut carrots that, sauteed in a little olive oil, salt and pepper, and noodles with Parmesan cheese. So, not the most exciting or innovative meal, but they ate it all. And
but what it'll take.
And
to
I
get them to
know,
eat it.
yeah. But then there's times that, okay, we're going to do green beans tonight. We're going to do salmon tonight. Things that they may not have had in a while that we want them to try again. And then there's some nights that it's like a quesadilla and a sliced up apple, and a yogurt. Honestly, I think I would love to be that mom that's making, homemade egg bites for her kids with spinach and stuff, and, hiding the vegetables. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just not that mom, and it's fine. And if I can get them to, just eat what's on their plate, everything that I read about kids, if they're hungry, they're going to eat.
Yep.
And if they're not going to eat. And it's annoying to me because I'm like, it's so much food that we're wasting. It feels so frustrating. But, we're trying to teach them to trust their bodies, and, trust when their body says that they're full. And we're trying to teach them, food gives you energy. Here's what certain foods do for your body. So we talk a lot about, carrots really help your eyes and helps you, be able to see better in the dark and during the daytime. And, broccoli really helps your bones and your teeth get strong. And so we try and identify with them what certain foods do for their body so that they understand, okay, I'm eating this food to help me have energy throughout the day, to stay, keep my muscles strong, to keep my mind strong, and to keep my body healthy, rather than just being like, you have to eat this, or else, or you won't get a treat. We also kind of with treats, we try and just give those to them without a lot of fanfare, or not hold it over their heads. If you don't eat this, you're not going to get a treat. And then, some nights we're like, it's not a treat night tonight, guys. We got to have some balance. Not every night can be a treat night. Otherwise it's not a treat anymore. So, dinner time, it's pretty simple, to be honest. And then there are times that, we'll all eat the same thing. We'll make something and everybody eats it and we all sit down together. They like setting the table, and we'll sit in the dining room for that. And they like setting the table and putting the placements out and doing all of that. So yeah, it kind of just depends.
Depends on the day. Yeah. When you said trust your body, it made me think of a time we talk a lot about that with my son as well, and same age. And they, one day he didn't want to go to school, and he was like, "You always say trust my body, and my body is saying I can't go to school."
It has really backfires sometimes, but they're like, well, my body's saying that I don't need to eat this. And I'm like, God, like, how do you,
you can't argue
I'm like,
it.
you know what? Yeah, you got me there. Yeah, they are kind of starting to outsmart us from time to time, but, it's
fun.
It's fun. And like, it makes me laugh because I'm just like, all right, you know what? I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah.
Just eat everything else.
I'm sorry your body says that, but you are going to school today.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of that too. Well, I don't want to, wear this for school. And I'm like, I don't make the rules. You gotta wear this and you gotta go.
I would love a uniform. It's been some days trying to get my son dressed. I had a uniform as a kid growing up, and there was never strife. I just knew what I was going to wear.
Yeah.
And now trying to get my son dressed some days, I'm like, can you just wear this, please?
I know. And it does make it easy, but there are times now they're coming home like, well, Lily was wearing her cat ear headband, and, Avery was wearing this scrunchie. And I'm just like, they're going to do what they're going to do. You got to focus on yourself. We got to focus on you. So they're getting to that age where they're kind of like comparing, like, oh, well, she does this and she wore this, and why can't I do that? So we're starting to have a lot of those conversations about, you're you and they're them, and you got to do your own thing. So, and that might just be like a girl thing too. I don't know.
It is interesting when they start noticing that it feels like their just awareness expands over time.
Oh yeah.
Even when they're little, they just play with themselves, and there's other friends around them, but they don't engage. And then as they start playing with friends, and like their awareness just keeps growing. I was with a newborn today, and I was like, your world is so small. Like, your world is literally, this is your world right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
So the kids go to bed around 7. What does the evening look like for you once they're down?
So my kids go to bed a little bit earlier than my stepdaughter. She's usually like down asleep by like 7:45, 8 o'clock. So they just have a different bedtime routine. And that's what's interesting too about having, multiple kids, especially kids that are not siblings, is that like her bedtime routine is so much different than the twins. The twins, it's like, all right, we're reading a book, we're singing our songs, good night, we're going to bed. And my stepdaughter's routine is just, it's more involved, and that's how they've always done it. And so it just takes a little bit longer. So Rebecca's usually done back downstairs, by 8. So I usually take that hour to, just unpack the twins' school bags, get any dishes in the dishwasher. And then I really do like to cook. And so I'll usually cook us dinner. So by the time she's done, dinner's ready, we can eat. And usually it's either we're sitting and eating and talking about our days, but we talk a lot throughout the day. So I kind of know what she's up to. She works from home. And so if I'm in and out, I know if she's got calls and meetings. So we talk a lot throughout the day. So there's not like a ton to catch up on, I feel like, at the end of the day. So we'll either kind of eat and chat. Sometimes we both have work that we need to wrap up, so we might be working. But a lot of times we will watch a show. I feel like we are good for like one show a night. So it's like we really got to like be, decisive about like, okay, what are we watching? We're going to stick to this. We're not going to jump around because we get like one show a night, because we're both just, we like to go to bed fairly early. I mean, I'm usually in bed by 9 o'clock, and either, reading, or sometimes we'll watch a show in bed, but it's like, we're usually lights out before 10 o'clock. So nothing like that exciting. We try and go out to dinner. We try and go out like once a week. That's something that is fun for us, usually by ourselves. Oh, it's kind of 50-50 by ourselves, or we'll meet up with friends. So we kind of try and plan that for Friday nights so that we're not like dragging the next day if we've stayed up really late. But yeah, that's kind of the evening. It's pretty low key. I try really hard not to work after kids go to bed because then I find myself just like sucked into it. And then I've
Yeah.
been sitting here in front of my computer for 2 hours and I look up and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this was not calming. So I try not to do a whole lot after bedtime that's going to like get my wheels spinning and get my wheels turning. And even like checking my email. And that's something that I've become a lot better about is not checking my email after a certain time of day. Because even just looking at an email in my inbox, even if I don't open it, I know it's there and I'm
Yeah.
going to be thinking about it. And
Mm-hmm.
then I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night and open it and read it. And then it's just like, I can't do anything about this right now. It's 1 o'clock
Mm-hmm.
in the morning. Like, so I really try not to even like open my email after bedtime.
I
So
had
it
that
helps
happen to
me.
me recently where I like looked
Yeah.
at something and I was like, there's literally nothing I can do until the morning.
Yeah.
And I woke up 3 different times thinking about it. And I was like, why did I even look? Why? Why do I even
Exactly. And you're
bother?
not going to, and if you email them back at 2 o'clock in the morning, they're going to see the timestamp and be like, what's wrong with you? Go to bed. And I put my phone on do not disturb. And so if somebody really needs to get a hold of me, they can. But
Yeah.
putting my phone on do not disturb has been a great gift that I've given to myself because you're just hit with stuff like constantly. Text
Mm-hmm.
messages, with the school moms, we don't do texting, we do group me. And then I have 5 sisters. And so we have all these different, like, various forms. We have like a Snapchat. They're the only reason I have Snapchat. But then, like, it's Snapchat. And like, I don't have notifications on Instagram, but then it's like email notifications. So
Mm-hmm.
certain times of the day, I just put my phone on do not disturb. And I'm like, you know what? Nothing, especially with my business, like, nothing is a true emergency. Like, we're not, nobody's on an operating table. Like, we're designing a home. Sometimes things are urgent. And if something is a true emergency, which there are very few true emergencies, people will be able to get in touch with me one way
Mm-hmm.
or another. So typically, dinner time on, my phone's on do not disturb because I'm just the kind of person that if I see a notification, if I see it sitting there, it drives me crazy and I have to look at it. And it's like, I have to look at it, I have to open it and get that little red dot off my screen. So if I can't see it, I'm blissfully unaware of what's going on
Yeah,
and I can deal with it later.
absolutely. How do you stay organized? So what tools do you use to stay organized for your business or for your family, like a Google Calendar? How do you stay organized?
So Rebecca and I have a shared calendar for just our kind of personal stuff, work stuff. So I can see she travels a good bit for work. So, I know when she's going to be out of town. She knows when I have meetings and calls and, vice versa. And we have a family calendar, with dates for the kids. So school functions, birthday parties, anything going on with them. We have a calendar for that as well. And then I have a shared calendar with my office. So we also put everything, client meetings, any, clients come to the office, site visits with showroom reps, everything that we do on the work side also goes into a shared calendar and they fill, they're filling that out most of the
Mm-hmm.
time. So it's nice to be able to every night. I look at all my calendars before I go to bed. That's like kind of the one thing I'll really do on my phone for work is I'll look at my next day and I'll say, okay, here's what I've got in the morning. Here's what I've got in the afternoon. And so I'm not waking up the next day going into it like totally blind. I know what I've got on deck for the day ahead. And then I look at it again in the morning. Okay, I've got this, this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
And it just helps me feel really prepared. And then for work, for project management, we use Asana. And there's a lot of different softwares that we use within our business for just kind of the information gathering and presenting for clients. Most of what we do internally is through Google Workplace, Google Sheets for all of our budgeting. And then we use Asana for project management. And then we use a tool called Gather for all of our sourcing. It's really helpful for brainstorming, kind of just like if we're online, if we're on, these different vendor websites, we can just put it kind of into Gather and then we can go back and reconsider our choices and edit things out. And then we have a group chat. I mean, we've tried, somebody suggested that we use Slack and I just thought, that's just another channel that we have to check. Why don't we chat in Gmail? So we have a G chat that we're kind of like sit on and, talk on during the day. But like, let's just text because,
Yeah.
if I have to check one more app, one more messaging app,
If you need one more
and
alert for a
I
random
can't like,
notification.
and I'm just like, these apps are only good if you actually use them. If you don't, it's just useless. It's just, sitting there. And, if we're not checking Asana, if we're not checking the G chat, if we're not checking our group text, things aren't going to keep moving. And if you add in another layer of communication to that, it just, for us, it was like, this just feels like too much. Yeah. So we just text. It works out just fine. And we have like an Instagram group for the office, and we send each other, things that we see on Instagram. This is a cool lighting company, or look at this, couch. Like, how cool would this be for such and such client? So really the biggest way I stay organized is just by calendaring literally everything. I mean, lunches with people, calls with people, activities for the girls. If it's not on my calendar, I will probably forget about it. So I put everything in the calendar. I use the reminder app constantly. I mean, constantly. And I set recurring reminders, even for things like water the fig trees on the porch, because it has to be done every 5 days and I'll forget. So, to me, I'm like, we have all these like great tools built in on the iPhone, and I'm going to use those. And if that stops working, then maybe I'll go to a different software that I, have to pay for, but they're working out just fine. So the reminder app and the calendar app are my best friends, and it seems to keep us pretty organized.
That's awesome. You've got a lot of balls juggling there.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned you work out in the day, and that's a huge priority for you. But what else do you do for yourself during the day?
So I started doing infrared sauna and cryotherapy pretty regularly recently. I mean, leading up to the wedding, I was like, all right, let's kind of layer this in. And I am obsessed with it. There's a place in town called The Covery, and it's kind of this holistic wellness center, and they do red light therapy, hydrofacials, cryotherapy, IV treatments, all these different really cool things. And so I was going in a lot before the wedding, but before that I started going a little bit. And 3 times a week you go in the cryo chamber, which is freezing. It's like negative 140.
Right.
And you put on like gloves and socks and like, earmuffs, and you can listen to music. And I do that for like 2.5 minutes on like the intermediate. And there's like wind also going. So it's like windy. I do that. And then it's supposed to help with muscle recovery, with cellular turnover. And then I go into the infrared sauna for like 30 to 40 minutes. And they have an iPad in there with Netflix, and I watch the Great British Baking Show, and I just sweat. Yeah. I'm like, that's my sauna show because it's relaxing. And, compared to like American reality shows, it's not stressful. They're not screaming and crying. They're all just very like happy, like, oh, my cake fell apart. Like, oh, well, it's not stressful to watch. And so I just sit in there, with my giant water and sweat, and I feel really great when I come out. So, and I can't have my phone. So my phone is outside. And so, it's 30 to 40 minutes for myself where I can just kind of sit and be quiet and sweat. And, I feel really good when I'm done. So that has been something recently that I do for myself. And I think too, just like holding that boundary with work of, stopping work at a certain time. When you work for yourself, it's really easy just to kind of keep going and keep emailing into the night. But I've found that I feel a lot more balanced. I feel a lot less overwhelmed when I have like a really clear boundary about when I'm working and when I'm not working. And so, that's something that might seem really small, but for me, it's a big thing because I've worked for myself for, going on 12 years now. And there were many years where I would stay up until, really recently, where I was staying up until, all hours problem solving, emailing, reworking things. And it was just, I was spinning my wheels too much and it was, wearing me down. So that's a huge change that I've made over the past, especially the past year. That's really been helpful. And then two, just scheduling time with people that I love and I care about to see them. And I'm in touch with people all day. But there's really nothing better than just like a face-to-face lunch. So I try and do lunch with a friend once a week. And that's really nice because, you get to kind of disconnect from, you get to see them, in real time, face to face. You get to share a meal with them. You get to kind of slow down for a minute. So I try and schedule lunch with a friend once a week. And then two, once a month, I like to get a facial. I like to get a massage, things. I feel like for me, self-care is really tied to body work and things that help me physically feel better. Because when I feel physically good, I feel mentally good. And those are, for me, really tied to each other. And so, working out, cryotherapy, sauna, getting a facial, taking care of my body really helps me feel mentally strong and just like really mentally prepared to take things on. I've found that when I feel mentally weakest is when I'm not taking really good physical care of myself. So those are very linked.
That's great perspective
for me. Yeah.
And like understanding that about yourself. You answered this a little bit, but I was going to ask, how do you make time for relationships with friends during the week? It sounds like you have a large family as well. How do you keep in touch with everyone?
So with my family, I mentioned before, I have 5 sisters and none of us live in the same place. And we communicate kind of like constantly throughout the day, but it's all on different channels. And it's like, we have a Snapchat and that's like a certain type of communication. And there's, we have a group text, but then we have a group text. They all have a Peloton as well. So then we have a group text about Peloton and where we just share our workouts, or we say like, hey, who wants to jump on a ride, at 5:30 tomorrow morning. So we do a lot of that. We do a lot of kind of like sister meetups virtually, especially through exercise. We're all really active. Some of my sisters were college athletes. And so that's just always been a big part of all of our lives. And so we'll do like a virtual ride. And sometimes only 2 or 3 of us can make it, but it's fun, because you can go to the leaderboard and you're like, oh, there's all my sisters and we're doing it together. So that helps us feel connected. We obviously have like an Instagram group chat that we just share memes through. So we talk a lot and, we talk a lot about our kids. All but one of us have kids. So, I feel like I'm really connected to them, even though we're not living in the same place. And then we really try and make an effort to see each other as much as we can. And then with friends, it's, scheduling things. All my friends are working mothers and busy, and we just really have to schedule things out. And so, usually Sunday, I'll throw out a text to a friend and say, hey, are you free for lunch this week? And we set a time and a place. And if they're not, then I kind of move on to like, somebody else I may not have seen in a little bit in person. And then trying to plan, dinners with friends as well. So like I said, we like to go out like once a week, and it's fun if we can loop in another couple. So, and a lot of our friends have kids the same age as us, and they're at the same schools. My daughters and my stepdaughter go to different schools, but we're always running and picking up and dropping off. And there's a lot of, we see each other briefly, at pick up and drop off, and we sit and catch up, or if we have time, like go grab a cup of coffee after drop off. And so just trying to be, intentional about, setting dates with friends and scheduling that time in, because it's really easy for that to get away from you if you don't. Everyone's busy, everyone's got a lot going on. And I think it's helpful to be really intentional about scheduling time with your friends.
And similarly with your wife, you mentioned you do a lot of dinners. How else do you make time for your relationship? And you mentioned she travels a lot. How do you balance that?
So I travel with her as much as I can. It is tricky with the kids, and their schedules, they're with me almost all the time. So sometimes I just can't make it happen. But when I
Mhm.
can, that's really nice to be able to go with her on these work trips. I've become, good friends with a lot of the people in her industry. So that's fun for us. And it's,
Mhm.
we love to travel. It's fun for us to see new places and just kind of get out of town for a little bit. We'll get up and work out together. We'll be doing separate things, but we're up there together. And that's really motivating. And that's even though we're not most of the time sitting and talking during those workouts, it feels like a good kind of like together time. There are times that we'll go after the kids go to bed. She'll walk on the treadmill and I'll be on the bike and we'll just do like they have those programs where you can just ride and it's like
Mhm.
scenic. And then we'll sit and talk and we'll just kind of like do that for 30 minutes. And then two, just, every night having dinner together and making sure that, we're really having dinner together, really trying not to work or
Mhm.
be on our computers during dinner. And then going out once a week is nice. So we see each other a lot during the day. Like I said, she works from home. I'm in and out a lot. So it doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you all day. I haven't talked to you all day. Like I need to catch you up on everything. But it is nice to have those breaks, those travel breaks or going out to dinner where it's just me and her and we're not in our house at our kitchen counter recapping, the day.
I love that idea of working out together, just kind of like walking and riding and chatting. Like that's a great
Yeah.
idea.
We haven't done that in a while because we've been really,
Got a lot going on
got a lot going on.
with the
But
wedding.
yeah, when we've been like, getting up early, we did that a lot before we moved into this house that we're in now. Our workout stuff was in the garage and we would work out at night a lot more. I don't know, like what shifted after we moved here. I was like, I have to get up in the morning and do this. We would work out together a lot after the kids went to bed. And that's when we would do those kind of like walk and ride and like talk sessions, which were great. And, you're on the bike and you're just like working stuff out. And so like, it feels really productive. And I feel like we would like hash a lot out. Or like schedule a lot out. We'd be like on the bike and be like, okay, well, what are you doing next week? And where are you going to be? And it always felt like really productive when we would do that. So now I'm like, we should do that again. It's been a while.
You mentioned you like to read a lot. What are you reading right now, and what types of books do you like to read?
So I like stuff that's like really light and entertaining. This summer, I got really into Elin. I'm going to say her last name,
Elin Hildebrand?
Hildebrand. Elin
Yeah.
Hildebrand. Okay. So I don't like somebody I follow on Instagram posted about one of her books and I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And I just like blew through it in like a day. And then I just read like not everything she's ever written, but I just was like reading book after book after book all summer and kind of into the fall. And so that's really what I've been reading recently. It's just all of her stuff. And now I'm like, I have to go to Nantucket. I have to see all these places. I have to eat at
Yes.
all these restaurants. I have to go to this beach and go get a smoothie here and like go to, a cinnamon roll here. So haven't made it there yet, but I'm determined to go.
Add it for
So
2024.
yeah. But other books, I really liked Lessons in Chemistry, and now I really want to watch the show
It's good.
that came out. I love, a book that everybody really loved that I was just kind of like about was Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow.
Mm, I love that
It
one.
just, it was like, I don't know. Like, I feel like I went into it with like these cute, great like expectations about it because everyone was just like, this is the most amazing book I've ever read. And I thought it was okay. And some of the characters were really frustrating, and
Yeah.
maybe that was the point. But honestly, what I like to read at the end of the day is just like fun, fluffy,
Mm.
because it's just like it's relaxing. It's kind of like just like watching a mindless TV show. I'm like my brain is calming down. So yeah, nothing like super groundbreaking to be honest.
I love Ellen Hildebrand. So she has some really, really good ones. And I
She
always
does, yeah.
find that I read them in the spring and then I'm like immediately like, I'm late getting to Nantucket. I need to get there now.
I know. I know.
What is a ball that you are letting drop right now, or what is something that you're currently deprioritizing because it doesn't fit in your life?
Oh, I'm not very good at that. So probably I went into this year saying this is like going to make me laugh because it has gone the total opposite way. I went into this year saying like, this is my year of saying no. This is my year of doing less. And I said no to like one thing and I was like, I did it. And then I said yes to like everything. Um, October was crazy. I was like involved in 3 different charity galas. One of them was in Houston. 2 of them were here. I had to like create things for 2 of them. And it was very cool. And the end result was incredible. And they raised a lot of money, but it was so time consuming and it was just like so much. And then I was, traveling a good bit in October and, the event that was in Houston, I was going back and forth. So still running the business, still, being a mother, trying to have a personal life. I guess like what I'm deprioritizing now, very like present day, is super involvement with my kids' school. I was really involved last year. I was the room mom last year. They were still in the same class last year. I was the room mom. I was like the chair of something for the spring fundraiser. I was like involved in all this stuff. And it was really time consuming. And, I was happy to help and happy to be a part of it. But at the end of the year, I was like, I got to take a break next year. I got to take a step back. So I said no to a couple things they asked me to do at school. I'm like, let me help in a different way. And that has helped with kind of my overall just like stress. I don't want to call it stress because it's not like stressful. It's just time consuming. So I would say I'm deprioritizing being super involved at school right now, just because I knew this fall with these, charity galas that I was involved in, with the wedding, we have a lot of huge projects at work that are wrapping up like at the end of this year. It's like, I'm just not going to be able to do that and go to meetings and be at school and doing all this. So, other ways I've been involved at school is I volunteer for lunch duty once a month. And that's, it's 2 hours. I'm like, that's manageable. Once a month for 2 hours, I can do that. So that's how I'm staying involved, but just on a little lower level. I feel like I'm in a really good place in my life, balance wise, as a working mom, as even just as a stay-at-home mom. I think, this idea of like, how do you balance everything? You kind of just have to figure it out, and you have to figure out what that looks like for you and what works best for you. And sometimes you find like this very brief window where you're like, wow, I feel like everything in my life feels very balanced right now. And that's where I am right now. It's not always that way. And I don't know if I'm just like on a wedding high still. I'm just like, feeling like, just in this very happy, very content place. But I've worked really, really hard to get my life to a place where it feels balanced for me. And other people might look at it and say like, you're doing too much, or, you're prioritizing this too much, or you need to do this. But for me anyway, I feel, great in my personal life. I feel great physically and mentally. I feel in a really good place with work. I feel in a really great place, with my wife, with my kids, with my family, and that might all kind of tilt off its axis, in a week. And I might say like, oh my God, work's crazy. Like, I feel like so overwhelmed, but just recognize things about myself over time. And I've figured out if there's a problem that I'm having, or if I'm feeling a certain way and it's impeding my ability to function at a high level, then I need to stop complaining about it and I need to do something about it. I just am not a complainer. And I think nothing drives me crazier than looking at a situation and seeing a really clear solution, but then nothing's being done about it. And there's just complaining and complaining. And it's like, well, do something about it. So it's taken me a long time. I mean, I'm 37. I'm not old by any means, but I'm also like not young by any means. And so it's taken me most of my 30s, I feel like, to get to this place and feel like things are good. I feel good with where I'm at. Some weeks are crazy, and you just kind of roll with it and you do what you got to do and you adjust.
And then, but what is something that is like a small thing or something that you use daily that is like really making your day great right now? If you can think of something.
Staring at it right now. Okay. So we stayed a little over a year ago. We stayed at the Commodore Perry in Austin. It's a really cool hotel. And they had these tea kettles in the room. And it's this brand. It's not Brother. What is it? Let me look it up. Fellow. Brother. Fellow.
Hello.
Fellow tea kettle. So I stopped drinking about 6 months ago. And before that, I was drinking very rarely for probably like 3 or 4 months. I've just found personally for me, I feel a lot better. My day to day feels a lot smoother, a lot less stressful when I'm either drinking less often or not at all. And so at night, I think for a lot of people, sometimes having a glass of wine or making yourself a cocktail is very much about like the ritual of it and like having something in your hand. So after we stayed at the Commodore Perry, Rebecca got me one of these tea kettles. And so at night, she bought me also this mug, this ember mug. And so it stays
Oh, yeah, it
hot.
stays hot. Yeah.
Oh, I'm like, it's my most used gift, this and the tea kettle. Because every night I make myself a cup of tea. And, I have like these favorites that I've found. And we went to London this summer. And so I brought all this tea back. And so I'll make myself a cup of tea and I put it in the ember mug. And so I'm not like, oh, it's going to get cold. And so I can bring it upstairs. I can do like my nighttime routine and then I can lay in bed and have a cup of tea. And that just kind of really helps like wind my day down. And it feels like a nice, very calm end to the day. So yeah, I think that's probably, I'm staring at it. So that was a pretty
That's awesome.
easy answer. Yeah.
And I love when you have a gift that you use every single day. Like, I feel like your wife nailed it on that one. Like,
Yeah.
I gave my dad this, like, Tibble wrote about or like posted about this like triangle squared pillow. It's like a iPad rest pillow.
The sleep. Oh yeah.
It's
yeah.
the sleep crown. I have that too.
Yeah.
Obsessed.
Same. It's so good.
But this like triangle pillow that like rests your iPad on it. And my dad was getting shoulder surgery and I got it for him. And for 3 years, that's been like the number one thing. He uses it every single day.
And it's like gifts that you wouldn't really expect. Like my family, we do Secret Santa. It's been a huge thing for my whole life. And we get really into it and, we make these wish lists and email them out. So a couple years ago, probably 3 years ago, I wished for this really nice bubble bath, this Suzanne Kaufman bubble bath, and a shower cap because I don't wash my hair. I wash my hair like once a week. I have really dry hair. And so I always use a shower cap. And I wished, I asked for this like nice shower cap. And my brother-in-law had me. And when I guessed him, he was like, this is the most like granny gift ever. I use that shower cap almost every single day. And I saw him last week and I was like, still hanging in there with that shower cap. That's probably my most used gift ever is the shower cap that he gave me. I should probably get a new one. It's like a little, worse for wear, but it's like those things that you don't like, people give it to you and you're like, oh, great, thanks. Like a teacup. But then I'm like, this is the best thing ever. I love it. And my Kindle too. Rebecca gave me a Kindle a couple years ago and I was still buying actual books. And she was like, you have the Kindle. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And so around this time last year, I started using it a lot more. And then I get so sucked into a book. Mm-hmm. And so she's like, now I feel like I'm competing with the Kindle. She's like, hello, like over here.
I think my husband feels like that with audiobooks because I often listen to audiobooks while I cook. And I just put one AirPod in and I'll be cooking and he'll be like talking to me over here. I'm like, in a minute, give me a second. I'm reading part of this book.
Can you see him reading?
Awesome. Well, Hattie, this has been so fun. Can you tell people where they can learn more about you and follow you?
Sure. So everything is very simple and the same username across all platforms. Instagram is Hattie Sparks, and then our website is hattiesparks.com. I don't really have any other form of social media other than Instagram. So that's where to find me. It's mostly design work, stories. I do, a lot of personal stuff in stories and behind the scenes on our design projects and kind of like our work process, some kid stuff. So that's where you can find me.
Awesome. And then Hattie, what is your favorite part of a day in your life?
I think my favorite part of the day is after I work out, before anybody's awake. I like being the only one awake in the house. It's quiet. It's dark. I make myself a cup of coffee. I make their breakfast. I have like just time to like really think about the day ahead. I would say that's my favorite part of the day because to me, it feels very promising. You know, we've got a new day ahead. I did something for myself. I'm doing something for my kids. And it's time to get going.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast, Hattie. It was so nice to meet and to connect.
Likewise. Thanks so much for having me.